I have kept the Commission's founding charter in my desk drawer for 19 years, not a copy. The original, the actual vellum instrument, 312 pages, stamped and notarized in the Commission's first session, before the ink on the walls of this chamber had fully dried. I brought it with me from the Earth Mission archive the morning I was first posted here. I have read it so many times that I know which pages creak when you turn them, and which corner of page 241 is soft from the oils of my thumb. The Commission did not know I had it. That was the point. The Vethrani Chromatic Classification Commission assigns color bands. That is the sum of its purpose. Every recognized species in the Vethrani Compact receives a band, a specific spectral designation entered into the sovereign registry that determines your trade rights, your legal standing, your eligibility to seat a delegation, your right to challenge a ruling, your right to exist in any administrative sense within compact space. Blue 3 means treaty eligible. Gold 7 means senior sovereign. The bands have subclassifications, notations, footnotes, and footnotes to the footnotes. 19 years I spent learning the system, not because I trusted it, because I needed to be more fluent in it than anyone in that chamber. Earth submitted its first classification application 11 years before I arrived. It was returned without action, missing a procedural seal. The second application was returned 4 years later, formatting non-compliant. The third was accepted for review and then sat in committee for 6 years without a hearing date. When I arrived, as the mission's newly assigned archival liaison, the fourth application had just been filed. I did not expect it to move quickly. I began reading the founding charter the same week I unpacked. It took me 8 months to find it. Page 241, Section 9, Subsection 4. The founders had written it for themselves. A provision granting the Commission's own members standing in the registry before the color band system was operational, before there were any bands to assign. They called it Color 0. The language was precise and a little strange. Any entity whose profile resists full codification within the current classification framework was to be designated Color 0, which carried, and this was the part I read 4 times before I believed it, unrestricted sovereign standing, unlimited trade rights, permanent consultative authority, and an exemption from all future reclassification proceedings. The founders had written it as a placeholder, a "we'll sort this out later" clause for themselves, in the ungainly first days before the registry had any shape. Then the registry took shape, the founders were assigned proper bands, and nobody ever looked at subsection 4 again. I did not tell Ambassador Varon immediately. I needed to be certain. I spent 3 more months verifying the clause against every subsequent amendment, every supplemental instrument, every procedural reform the Commission had issued in its 160 years. None of them touched subsection 4. Some of the reforms clearly meant to update the entire Section 9 structure, but the drafters had written their amendments narrowly, and subsection 4 sat untouched beneath them like bedrock beneath new construction, sealed and intact. Then I told the ambassador. She read it once and was quiet for a long time. "Does the Commission know this clause exists?" she asked. "Almost certainly not," I said. "It's on page 241 of a 300-page founding instrument that no one has needed to read in full for a century." She was quiet again. Then she said, "What triggers it?" "A formal finding," I said, "that Earth's profile resists codification." She looked at me. I looked at her. We did not say anything else about it. The fourth application sat in committee for 2 more years. The hearing was finally scheduled for the 43rd day of the current administrative cycle, in the Commission's main chamber, with all 7 presiding commissioners seated, which was unusual. The full bench meant a formal disposition. It meant they intended to close the matter. The chamber is tiered. The Commission sits elevated, at a curved bench of pale stone. Below them, a floor-level table where applicant delegations sit. The galleries are open to observers. I sat in the second row, behind the glass partition, with the founding charter in my satchel. Ambassador Varon sat alone at the floor table. She had asked for no other delegation members. Just her and 1 document. Commission Chair Dravath Sorath opened the proceeding at the 3rd bell. He read the application number, the applicant designation, Earth Mission, Class 7 pending, and the committee's preliminary finding, which ran 4 pages, and which his reader aide delivered in a voice calibrated to carry to every seat in the gallery. The finding concluded that Earth's biological substrate showed no stable spectral signature, that Earth's cultural and institutional record showed contradictions irreconcilable with the classification framework, and that the Commission therefore held, unanimously, that Earth's profile, I remember the phrase precisely, because I had been waiting for it for 2 years, resists codification within the current classification framework. There it was. The chair announced the finding would be entered into permanent record. He reached for the ratification stamp. Ambassador Varen did not stand. She did not speak. She placed a document on the floor table, 1 page, a formal procedural filing, cross-referencing the founding charter by page, section, and subsection, and then she rose, picked up her satchel, and walked out of the chamber without looking back. The room was still processing her departure when the Commission's own archivist, a small Vethrani woman named Sovan Prell, who had held the post for 30 years, leaned over to examine the filing. I watched her face. I have thought about that moment often since. 30 years of institutional knowledge, reading a single page. She picked it up. She set it down. She picked it up again. She stood. "Commission Chair," she said. Her voice was careful in the way that voices are careful when the speaker is not sure the floor beneath them is still solid. "I need to read something into the record." The chair looked at her the way senior officials look at archivists who interrupt, briefly, and without much interest. "We are in the process of ratifying." "Before ratification," Sovan Prell said. "Please." He nodded, because what else do you do when your own archivist says please in that voice? She read subsection 4 aloud, the full text. She read it slowly, and the chamber was quiet enough that I could hear the faint hum of the holographic displays along the far wall. When she finished, she set the page down. "The Commission's finding," she said, "that Earth's profile resists codification within the current classification framework, meets the precise trigger condition of Section 9, Subsection 4 of the Founding Charter. Under the founding instrument, ratification of the finding constitutes a formal disposition, activating the Color 0 designation." The chair stared at her. Beside him, Commissioner Varath-Son leaned forward and said something in a low voice. Across the chamber, I could see 2 of the other commissioners reaching for their own procedural files, the way people reach for a lamp switch when the room goes dark. Automatic, unhelpful, a little desperate. "Color 0, Sovan Prell said, because she was a thorough woman and she was not finished. "Carries unrestricted sovereign standing, unlimited trade licensing, permanent consultative authority within all compact proceedings, and," she paused, "exemption from all future reclassification proceedings." The stamp in Commission Chair Dravath-Sorath's hand did not move. I sat in the gallery with the founding charter in my satchel and said nothing, because there was nothing to say. The document on the floor table said it. The charter said it. Sovan Prell had said it. Ambassador Varen had already left. The ratification of the finding was entered into record at the 4th bell, because under the Commission's own procedural code, a finding in session cannot be withdrawn without a full reversal proceeding, requiring a supermajority of all 7 commissioners, and a minimum 40-day review window. The ratification stamp came down. The finding was permanent. The finding activated Subsection 4. Subsection 4 was permanent. 4 procedural challenges were filed in the following 9 days. 3 were dismissed by the Commission's own legal chamber, on the grounds that the founding charter predated and superseded all subsequent amendments to Section 9. The 4th is still pending, and has been pending for 11 months, and will likely remain pending because no one at the Commission can agree on which body has jurisdiction to hear a challenge against the founding instrument's own operative language. Earth Mission's new address, for all compact correspondence, is listed as the Color 0 Consultative Office, a designation that did not exist in any directory before the ratification, and which now must be created, because the founding charter says it must exist, and the Commission wrote the founding charter, and the Commission ratified the finding. Ambassador Varen sent no statement, no follow-up communication, no request for a meeting. She didn't need to. The charter said everything she needed said, in language the Commission's own founders had written 160 years ago, and then forgotten to read. I have kept the founding charter in my desk drawer for 19 years. I gave it back to the mission archive the morning after the ratification. It had done what it needed to do. It belonged where people could find it. Though I suspect, now, it will be somewhat harder to misplace.